Welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful sleeveless waistcoat. You are seeing right there on the thumbnail and on the video right here. So this waistcoat is actually looking so beautiful. You can use it for any dress of your choice. It can be a trouser, it can also be a skirt. So this is what I came out with, as you can see. So the waistcoat is a double-breasted waistcoat. You can see the buttons and then the sleeveless. You can see the shape we gave it on the down part. It actually have a peplon attached to it, so to speak. So this is what I got, and I'll be showing you the tips and tricks to sewing this waistcoat. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial to learn more. So to start off this tutorial, we will first draft our basic bodice pattern for the waistcoat. So I'm going to make a borderline of 4 inches first. So you make a borderline of 4 inches and rule your line. So here is my center front and this is my button allowance. The next thing we are going to do is to start taking our vertical measurements from the shoulder. So I'm going to place my tape on the shoulder. I'm going to measure my chest line at 9 inches, my bust point at 10.5. Then you are going to take your waistline. There's no under bust right here. Just take your waistline. Mine is 17 inches and I counted 6 inches down for the length of this waistcoat. So 6 inches down will give me 23 inches, which is my full length of this waistcoat. So I'm going to rule my lines across. After that is done, here is my chest line, my bust point, my waistline, and here is the full length at 23 inches. The next we are going to do now is to take our shoulder measurement. So my shoulder divided by 2 is 7.5. I marked it on the shoulder line and on the chest line. I took 3.5 inches for my neckline width and came down by 1 inch and connected my shoulder slant. I made a straight line for my armhole and then I got the midpoint and came in by 0.75 and connected a slant line. My bust circumference divided by 4 is 10. I added half an inch for ease. Please add half an inch for ease. This is a jacket, okay? You always add ease to it. So my neck width, I took 7 inches. I used 7 inches for my neck width. So I actually want to connect this neckline nicely. So I took the midpoint of that 7 inches on the other side and connected a straight line. Then I tried placing my pattern ruler, but it was not actually giving me what I want. So I now drew a 2 inches line from that 7 inches and then free-handed the neckline. So you can see what I got there is actually looking nice. On the bust point, I took my nipple to nipple, which is 3.5, and I took it on the hemline to create my dart. My dart intake is half an inch, is 1 inch. So I took half inch, making it 1 inch, and I connected it from the bust point to the full length line. Next is to take your waist measurement, divide by 4, add half an inch of ease and 1 inch for your dart. So I'll go over to the full length line. I took my hip measurement, divide by 4. I added half an inch for ease. So just keep adding half an inch on your lines, okay, for ease. Then I came down by 3.5 inches from my waistline just to connect that slopey shape we have on the down part of this jacket. So I came in from the dart by 2 inches and connected it. So this is 3.5 inches, and from the dart I took 2 inches and connected the slopey part. Then I blended it up into the full length line. So this is the shape the jacket is going to have. So the next thing we are going to do now is to create the double breasted. I'm using 2.5 inches for my extension. 2.5 inches because my nipple to nipple is 3.5. So if your nipple to nipple is 4.5, use 3.5. Just take away 1 inch from your nipple to nipple. I believe you understand. So mine, I use 2.5 inches. So my nipple to nipple is 3.5. So I took away 1 inch from it and I have 2.5 inches. That is my button extension. So here I am done with the extension of the button. So I extended my line on the waistline because I want to create that V shape. So I came in by 1 inch. So you can actually connect from the waistline on that extension to directly to the center front if you don't want that V shape to be too obvious. But for me, I came in by 1 inch. I want it to be obvious. Okay, so you can see it on my body when I wore it. So I'm going to create the princess dart now. So from the chest line, I'll come up by 2.5 inches because I want my princess dart to be a little bit down. So I'm going to connect 2.5 from that chest line. I came up by 2.5 into the bust point, and I came out by 1 inch to accommodate the armhole. Then I went ahead to blend it in on the chest line. So this pattern is ready now. I'm labeling it F1, F2. So the next we are going to do is to cut out what we have on the pattern piece. So this is how I'm going to cut it out right now, as you can see. So you just cut on the lines right now. I came over to the side and I'm cutting into the armhole, the shoulder line, into the armhole. Then I'm going to cut the princess dart. So this is how I cut the dart. So I did not actually cut the dart completely because we are going to cut out or separate that peplum part. So I have to replace this dart because I don't want to cut out this dart. The dart is 1 inch. I went to the side and remove the dart. Okay, so just go to the side and remove the dart. So now we are going to cut that 1 inch on the side off. After separating the upper piece from the peplum, you just remove the dart. That is the replacement of that dart we have there. I believe you understand that explanation. So here my pattern for the front is ready right now. You can see it's fitting very well. So now we want to jump over to the back, and here I have my shoulder line. I'm taking my chest line and my waistline, and the full length remains 23 inches. Everything is the same on the vertical line for front and back because there is no bust dart here. So I'm going to rule my lines across accordingly, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to take my shoulder divide by 2 on the chest line and on the shoulder line. And I still maintain the 3.5 inches width of neckline, and 1 inch is for the neck depth. 1 inch for the neck depth for the back. I came down by 1 inch and slanted my shoulder, as you can see, and then I took my straight line to create my armhole. I came in by 1/2 inch for the back armhole and connected, and I marked my bust circumference divide by 4 and added 1/2 inch for ease. Then on the, that is my chest line, my waistline, and the full length line. Then on the waistline, I'm going to take my waist divide by 4. I marked and got the midpoint of that my waist divide by 4. And that is what I marked on the chest line and on the hem line, just to create the dart for the back. So my dart is 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. That is 1 inch. I added it back and added 1/2 inch of an ease on the waistline. Then I'm going to create that dart of 1/2 inch, which is the back dart. So after creating that, I'll go over to the full length line and mark my hip circumference divide by 4. I added 1/2 inch for ease. So after that, I I want to connect my princess dart, but I feel connecting it to the midpoint just for the back will give me a better shape. So I now went over to the midpoint and then I connected my princess dart. So I came out by 1 inch to accommodate the dart, then reconnected my armhole. So I came down by 3.5 inches on the side of this back, just like I did for the front. Then you can see how I blended it into the pattern. So next is on the waistline. You come in by 1/2 inch for contouring your back. So you use 1/2 inch, okay? Since we are not using a zipper, I like to use 1/2 inch for my jacket. Then I'm going to replace that 1/2 inch on the side too, and I connected, and then I connected it back to the full length line. So the next we are going to do is to cut out the pattern. As you can see right here, the pattern is ready. So I'll just quickly cut it off accordingly. So this is B1 and B2. I'm going to cut out the center contour line, center back contour line, and then I'm going to cut the shoulder line, the neckline, and then I'll move over to cutting off the princess dart for the back. So I'll cut through my 1 inch waist dart, but I'm not going to cut it out completely. Remember, we are going to replace the dart on the side and cut it off from the side. So I'll mark the 1 inch and then cut it out on the side, just like we did for the front anyway. So I went ahead and cut out, as you can see right there. So the pattern for the back is ready as well. So you can see what we got right here is actually looking beautiful already. So the next thing we want to do now, since the patterns are ready, the peplum for the back, I'm going to cut it on fold. That is the center back. So when cutting it, I'm going to cut my fabric on fold, okay? So make sure you cut it on fold. Then I'm going to cut 2 times of each of this pattern for left and for right. So here I'm using a crepe fabric. It's actually a thick crepe fabric that is a little bit stretchy. That is what I'm going to use for this waistcoat. So I actually use 1 yard. I managed 1 yard, but if you cannot manage 1 yard, you can use 1.5 yards for this project. So here I'm done cutting out. I added half inch seam allowance, but on the hem line I added 1 inch because I'm going to hem that part. So this hem, the peplum part does not have any lining at all, but I added lining for the upper piece. I believe you understand. On the side I added 1.5 inches on the side of this waistcoat. So now I'm going to take off my patterns right now, and I'll begin to join them with 1/2 inch. So I'll head over to the sewing machine now. I'm going to start from the down part of this dress and start joining the princess dart. So here I'm done joining them. You can see the center back right there. So the next is to sew both lining and the fabric on the center back with 0.5 inches. So here I'm done sewing the lining and the fabric for the back. I'll set it aside, then I'll move over to the front piece. So for the front piece, I am also going to take off my patterns for the front piece, and I'm going to sew the princess dart. So if you are sewing the princess dart, make sure you start from the down piece to sew your princess dart, okay? So you just sew from the down and now go into the armhole. So that is what exactly I'm going to do right now. So the peplum part of this dress, I just kept it. We are going to work on the upper bodies. As you can see, I've joined my princess dart for front and back. So the next thing I'm going to do is to make notch. Make sure you make your notches on the princess dart part. So I made my notches on the princess dart part, as you can see, and I'll go over to the ironing table and give it a good press. Here I'm done giving it a good press. So the next step is to cut off any little excess. Definitely you have an excess. Just go ahead and blend it into the armhole. That's all. So you can see what I got right there. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place the lining on top of each other. So you place the lining of the back with the back, sew the neckline, the armhole, and the sides with 1/2 inch. So I first secure them with my pin, and the part I'm going to chalk now is the part you are going to stitch. So you stitch the neckline, you will stitch the armhole. I'll also mark the other armhole for stitching. Then you are going to stitch the side with 1/2 inch. You also stitch the other side with 1/2 inch. So I'll go over to the machine and stitch right now, leaving the down and the shoulder seam line open. So after stitching, make sure you notch. So these notches is very important because the parts we stitched are very curvy. So now after notching, I'm going to turn it to the right side. So after turning it to the right side, you can see what I got. The next thing I'm going to do is to head over to the ironing table and give it a good press. So I'm going to set the back aside and we'll move over to the front piece. So for the front piece, I'm going to also lay my lining right side to each of them. I'll also secure them with my pins like I did for the back. Then we'll proceed to sewing them. So I'll just use this one to show you where I'm going to stitch. I'm going to stitch the neckline. I'll stitch that center front line, which we had the 2.5 inch extension. I'll stitch on the armhole, then I will stitch on the side with 1/2 inch and leaving the down and upper piece open. So after stitching, I also notch. So whatever I do to this piece, I will do to the other piece as well, because the pieces are the same. So I'm going to turn to the front piece right now. So I will turn to the front piece and I'll go over to the ironing table to also give it a good press. So you can see what I got for this piece. So I'll repeat the same for the other piece. So after giving it a good press, we are going to couple this dress right now. So I want you to pay more than the maximum attention to see how I'm going to couple the shoulder line. So you place them together like this and pick 3 pieces of it and put in your hand into the lining like this, and then you hold all of them and turn them to the wrong side. Can you see that? So whenever you are making a sleeveless dress, this is the method or the trick to sewing a sleeveless dress. So next is to secure with my pin. So I make sure they are equal. Make sure the shoulder seam line for the front and for the back is equal, or else you will not have a good result. So I'll just go ahead to secure them with my pins right now. And after securing with my pin, I'll go over to the machine and stitch at 1/2 inch. So I just slowed down a little bit on this part because I would like you to see what I did right here. So I secure with my pins right now. So I will go over to the machine to stitch at 1/2 inch. So I'm just trying to make sure everything relaxes nice and flat before I stitch. So I will move over to stitch at 1/2 inch right now. So I'm going to repeat the same process for the other. So after stitching, this is what I got. I will now bring it out. You can see what I got right here. So I'm going to give it a good press so everything comes out nice and flat. So one of that part is ready. So but I want to show you another method you can use to do this so it does not give you issues. So just turn the dress, one of them to the wrong side, and place it right side to right side and insert it from below. So you can see what I did right there. So this is another method you can use if you don't want to use the first method. Then once you insert it, you secure with your pin and arrange it very well and stitch at 1/2 inch. So I'll move over to the machine to stitch. So after stitching, this is what I got. So I'm going to turn it out like this. So you can see both methods are very good. So you head over to the ironing table to give it a good press. So now I'm going to stitch 1 inch 1 inch. Okay, I'm left with 1 inch after I stitch my half an inch. So after stitching, I gave it a good press. The upper piece of this dress is ready, and you can see the double breasted part is coming out very nicely. So now we want to jump over to the peplum part. So for the peplum part right now, you can see what I got right there. So we are going to use our bias to turn this part. Okay, that part does not have any lining at all. So I just cut out the piece like that, as you can see. So we are going to use the bias and turn the center front and the down piece. So I got a matching bias right now, so I'll be showing you how I stitch this bias to turn this piece. So I will just go over to my machine now to show you how I did that. So right here on my machine, I'm going to place my bias on the center front piece first. So I just open up my bias. Then I'm going to stitch in the bias. So after I'm done with stitching it on one side, I cut it out. The next thing I'm going to do is to flip it to the wrong side and now top stitch the bias. So I top stitch the bias, that is for the center front. Then the down piece of this peplum, I'm also going to use my bias. So you just cut out the excess you have. So I'll use my bias now, and I want you to see how I did that. So this is the down piece. I brought it out by 0.5 inch and folded it in this way. Okay, so I'm going to also stitch it that way. I will stitch from that beginning. I'm going to take it all the way to the end of the down piece. So after sewing to the end of the down piece, we are going to also flip it to top stitch, just to have a good finishing on the other side. So I cut out, and then I'm going to finish it up this way. So you bring it out and flip it and top stitch. I believe you understand. So I just thought of showing this part so it will be very easy for everybody to understand. So I top stitch on the bias. This is just to finish off the down piece of this peplum dress, of this waistcoat, I mean to say. So now we are done. So I gave it a good press, and this is what I got. So you can see how it's going to lap on each other when I sew it in. So I'm going to sew these pieces. I opened up that stitching I made initially because I just thought of sewing it directly is better. So I'm going to make a notch at the center piece of that peplum and attach it to the center back. So make sure you make the notch. So I'm picking both the lining and the fabric together. Remember, the peplum does not have a lining. So once you pin it at that point, you pin the princess that point, and then you also align this to the end of this dress. So I did the same for the front. You start from the front piece, the center front, and align it from the center front. Then you take it all the way to the side. So I'm going to also do the same on this other side and stitch. So after stitching, this is what I got. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to put it together on the side. I gave it a good press anyway. Please don't forget to give it a good press. Then if you have any extension, cut it off, make it blend in. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I pin the waistline with my pin, then pin the waistline. So you can see the peplum is a little bit longer with half an inch. Remember, it does not have any lining to sew the half an inch in, so that extension will definitely be there. So now I'm going to secure with my pin and stitch at 1 inch. So here, after stitching, this is what I got. So you definitely have something like this. Just go ahead and trim it off, make it blend into the dress. It does not affect anything at all. So at the end of the day, you are going to weave or serge the inside of it, and everything blends very, very well. So we have gradually come to the end of this tutorial. So I believe this class was very helpful to you. So if this class is helpful to you, I would like to see your comments on the comment section. Okay, so the inner piece, you can go ahead and serge it. Then we are going to fix our buttons. So you just make your buttons. Make sure you make your buttons the way we drafted it in. You will take the button very close to the bust point. Just give 1 inch away and fix your buttons. So this is a double-breasted waistcoat, and you can see how beautiful it is. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe and turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, and drop your comment on the comment section like I earlier said. And don't forget to continue to follow Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for tutorials. We drop tutorials on this channel every day. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next